listening to the Motherhood Experience, a podcast where you are part of the conversation with moms, for moms, and by moms. Let's jump into this episode with me, your host, Val Kleppen. Welcome to episode 5 of the Motherhood Experience podcast. Episode 5. 5 seems like a momentous number for me, and I'm so grateful that you stuck with me for 5 episodes. As my husband would say, here's to 5 more. But I want to give a quick introduction to the guest on today's episode. Annette Schultz has, again, been my friend for well over a decade. We lived in the same town together. We sang together in church. We have quite the history. Annette and her husband, Patrick, are very dear, very close friends of my husband's and mine. They've watched our kids grow up. In a sense, I watched their kids grow up. And you're going to hear Annette's very personal, fascinating story of becoming a mother and what that motherhood journey has looked like to date. I'm so excited for you to hear from my friend Annette. Let's get straight into the interview right now. Okay, Annette, I'm so thankful you agreed to do this. I know this is not your thing. And I was trying to remember how exactly you and I became friends.
I'm pretty sure we ended up being in like an early morning. Wasn't it like an early morning?
That's
accountability
yes.
group.
Yes. And I think because how I remember it is I remember attending Salem as the church that we attended together. And I remember going, oh man, that woman who is the bass player for our worship team is the coolest cat in this room. And I will never be cool enough to be her friend. And
my gosh, Val.
And then we got partnered up in that group. I remember being excited about that, but I couldn't remember if that was really where we started becoming friends or if there was something I was forgetting. But
I'm pretty sure that because that led to, we started doing dinners. I mean, there was just like, It was magical. It was all magical.
Yes, it was. And so we've been friends for, I don't even know how many years now. Over a decade for sure.
Oh, yes.
And you and Patrick, your husband, are just, Brent and I call you, you know, how there are friends who like are an adopted set of parents or something, but Brent and I call you our adopted brother and sister. And I knew when I started this podcast that I had to break it to you gently, kind of, but also assertively that I wanted you to be a guest on here because that is how you roll. Like you had to be tender, but also pushed a little bit. And because
yes. So true. You know me so well.
And so you have an incredible story of how you became a mother. And just, I love how your kids are, well, I just love your kids, but they're not kids anymore. So tell my audience the ages and stages of your kids today.
Super. Well, I have a boy and a girl, and Maddie is now, she just turned 29 years old. She's been married for 2 years, so still definitely newlyweds. And her stage of life is so exciting. She owns her own business, Blue Cipher Bookkeeping, and is just going gangbusters with it. She's just so successful and continues to grow. So very, very thrilled for everything in her life is pretty exciting. So that's awesome. Albert is our son, and Albert is 31. They both just had birthdays, so I have to adjust to that.
Right.
And he's had quite a year. His year of being 30 was pretty eventful. He got laid off. He was doing some government contract work and they lost the contract. So anyway, it's been the last 6 months have been horrendous for him, and on again, off again, part-time, not time. But he just got a new position, so he's thrilled and happy with it. He's got a job in Fargo with an education consortium. So he's working with the school districts in Southeast North Dakota.
Oh, wow.
So, he's very thrilled with it, loves his coworkers, and we're very happy that the Lord kind of brought him through that.
Oh, that is so wonderful.
Desert. It was a desert.
Well, and you moved from there to the desert. You are now
Yes.
living in Arizona, which maybe we'll have time for that. If not, you'll come back. You'll come back. I'm just telling you that you will.
Okay. Okay.
So, can you tell me then, after you and Patrick were married, or maybe before, did you have an innate desire to be a mother?
I never thought I would be a mother. I was never motherly as a child. I never babysat. I was the youngest in my family, so I didn't have younger siblings or younger
Okay.
cousins even. I was like the tail end of everything.
Oh wow.
So it was never really like I didn't have like this nurturing, like I want to hold a baby or none of that as I was a young adult. But when we got married and as we were talking about getting married, it's like we both said, I just can't imagine not having children. Like that's what a family is, and that's the legacy you leave. And there was just this like I don't want to be 80 years old and alone in this
Yeah.
world, which maybe is a selfish perspective, but that's I just, it just sort of I did struggle with it. We had, those premarital conversations where, I think Patrick wanted 6 kids and I'm like, "Oh." But definitely we both wanted to have children.
Yeah.
That's we were living in Minneapolis and I worked with a group of women that we were all in that age group and like one by one everybody was getting pregnant and we weren't. It's just
Yeah.
like we just weren't. So I think we started just probably a year after we were married and there's a lot of the journey in between, but by the time we had our first adoption and we got Maddie, we'd been married 9 years. So 8 years of the process of trying to get pregnant and figuring out why that wasn't happening and then what would be our next steps. So,
Yeah.
um,
So what was it like for you to come to the determination that this probably isn't going to happen for me? We are either going to be childless or adopt.
mhm. It sucks.
Yeah.
It absolutely sucked. And I try to be empathetic with people that are struggling with infertility. But I just think people need to say it like it is. It is a sucky situation.
Yeah.
It is. And I think as the female in the relationship, it's a monthly disappointment. It's like
Mm,
every time you get your period, it's like, ah, we're not pregnant again and
mm,
again and again. And you don't want your intimacy to just be like to check the box because the temperature's right today, but there's that whole side of it. It's like we don't want to lose the love, but it just becomes a chore
right.
in some ways. Or like we have to do this, and
Right.
it was emotionally very very challenging, especially when all people around you are getting pregnant and people are asking, oh, are you guys going to have children? And like, how do you answer that? you
Right.
know it's like, well, if the Lord will. Right? It's like you try this, and then sometimes you just want to say it is none of your business. Like
Right.
this is kind of personal, and I don't want to tell you about what's going on. So
Yeah.
I think we had been trying for about a year, and then we decided to pursue infertility testing, however you want to say it, and went through the beginning stages of that, which was invasive and oh my gosh, it's like I got so used to people looking at my parts, like
Right.
whatever you need to look to, come on in, like whatever. You kind of lose all modesty, and then we moved to Seattle, and I changed insurance with my husband's work, and infertility testing was not covered.
Mm,
So we had what was a carryover from our previous situation. I think we had 2 or 3 rounds of, at that time, Clomid was the medication that we were taking. They could not physically find a reason why we weren't getting pregnant, and to pursue that would have been more invasive treatment. And in vitro was cutting edge, like that was, you know, science fiction most for the most part at
sure.
the
Sure.
time. Not at all like it is today, where it was an option. So we finished. We were finishing up that round of Clomid, and that's we just prayed, And my husband, great man of faith, just said, Lord, this is it. Like, this is our last month. And if we're not pregnant, then we know you don't want us to be pregnant. We're
Hmm.
just going to lay the at your feet. And we often talk about that as throwing out the fleece. Well, we threw out that fleece. It's like, we're giving this all to you. It's like, you're the God, you're the God of all, and
Yeah.
you can get us pregnant. That's not a question. But if you don't do that, we're going to just take that as a no. And we're going to just figure out how else we're going to build a family.
Yeah. So then you started pursuing the adoption route. Did you know you were going to adopt too? Or was it just
Oh,
like,
I
no?
didn't know. We had no idea how many kids we were going to adopt. We just knew we needed to start that process. And
Okay.
you start looking at, low or domestic versus international, and we got the word out to some friends, and of course somebody knows somebody who knows somebody whose daughter was recently gotten pregnant and is interviewing potential parents. We did some of that, and it just, we came very discouraged with the, like, make a little book about yourselves and sell yourself to look like you're the perfect family
Oh,
for
sure.
um, open adoptions was brand fairly new at that time, and we just really had mixed feelings about that. I know
Yeah.
wonderful stories. I have a very dear friend. My friend Aileen is knows her adopted, knows her birth mother, and I mean, it's a beautiful story, but it
Yeah.
just, for me, it scared me
Yeah.
terribly, scared me. And we just kind of said, I think when we think about adoption, our mindset is like a child that doesn't have a mom and a dad,
Mm,
like that is fatherless, motherless. And really that took us international, because domestically that's just usually very rarely the case. There's
hmm.
um anyway, so we learned a lot about foster care and domestic adoption, and we just decided we were going to pursue international.
So do I have this right in my head that even though Maddie is younger, was she adopted first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so she very much is our firstborn role.
Okay.
I
Okay.
And it really isn't a matter of age. I'm convinced it really is. She was adopted first, and she just has filled that firstborn kind of mindset,
Yeah.
behavior.
Did you tell a story? I might be making this up, but isn't there something with Maddie's birth certificate or something where you are listed as her mother?
Oh, well, interestingly, that is how international birth certificates work through adoption. So they had their original birth certificates, and then once you go through the adoption process, the way that the state issues the birth certificate is that I am listed as their mother with my address that I was living at the time of their birth. So
Wow.
so it's very interesting. And so so whatever year that my son was born, I was living in Seattle, Washington. That's the address of his birth, even though he was an ocean away. So, which has actually been very challenging with his government jobs because of his security clearance and having to defend his citizenship. But that, when are adopted, you have automatic citizenship. He
Of course.
automatically was issued a passport. He is a U.S. citizen, and they can't quite always figure that out.
Weird.
But where are your naturalization papers? Which
What
is underscore at, that's how we feel. It's like, right?
exactly?
If
Exactly.
you really do take on that adoption, I mean, I am their mother. I
Yes.
know they have a birth mother somewhere. If they are still living, I don't know, but I'm their mother. They're my child, and I just
You homeschooled for a season. It was a few years, I think, but tell me kind of about that because I remember you telling me like we had to have regiment, routine, like
yeah.
we were all in or nothing.
And I'm the kind of person, I like right now my job is a remote trainer. I've been in training and development off and on. And so I work with a flip chart and with PowerPoint presentations. And so I was not the mom who was going to bake cookies and then teach fractions while we were, oh, we had a workbook. The bell goes off at 8. We say the Pledge of Allegiance. I mean, that's just how I operated.
Yeah.
But so it started with Maddie actually, because she was 3 when we got Maddie. So I've not had infants or toddlers. Maddie was 3 when we
That's
adopted
great.
Albert. He was 7.
Right.
Um, and so I've only had elementary, I guess 3-year-olds are still toddlers, but
Pre-K, yeah.
pre-K, yes. And so of course, well, you're going to send her to preschool, aren't you? And the backstory is that we were matched with Maddie when she was 18 months old. And then for whatever red tape reasons in the country of Hong Kong, she was a month shy of 3 before we got her. So we watched, we'd get pictures and such, but 18 months after we were matched with her and we had said yes to her being our daughter. So it was a lot of waiting with Maddie, a lot of waiting. And at that point, 9 years into this, I'm like, you think I'm going to turn around and send her to preschool and let someone else play with her? It's like, I have waited a decade for this. It's like, I'm not,
Oh,
and she's been in an orphanage for heaven's sake. She doesn't need to learn how to socialize with other kids. Right?
right,
Like she
right,
lived with she
right.
needs to know what a family is. And
Yeah.
but I wanted her to be exposed to, letters and numbers and reading at the library. And I just said, I'll do it. I don't know anything about preschoolers. I don't know anything about homeschooling, but I just thought I'm going to do this and I'm just going to spend time with my daughter. So that's really where that came from. She did go to public school for kindergarten because she was ready, and I knew she had a friend that was going there, and that was all great. But it was that sense of like, I don't want her out of my sight. I, I don't know. I was like, she doesn't even know me. I don't want to send her away. Um, with Albert, we did we moved in the middle of a school year anyway. So Albert was in a half of year of public school. He did not do any sort of schooling while he was in the orphanage. So spoke no English, really didn't get the whole schooling thing. So we often laugh about he was kind of our little jungle boy. He was wild. He was just wild. Uh, but so when he went to public school, they put him in ESL, English as a second language,
Okay.
with all the other kids who were, internationals moving. Well, none of them spoke English. Albert didn't speak English, and so he didn't. So we found that summer when he was home with us after that school year, his English just exploded. Like all of
Mm,
it, and we're like, wait a minute. Once again, it's like I think we're missing something here. And that's we're again 7 years without us, and then you're going to spend all day in a classroom with other kids, and then you're
yeah.
most of the time you're put in with kids who don't speak English as well. It just made sense that we needed again to bond, and we needed to bond as a family. Maddie now had a new brother. I mean, there was just so many dynamics. So we homeschooled for 3 years of that. So through third grade, we homeschooled, and Maddie, a very bright 5-year-old that had started kindergarten, and Albert got to us at 7 and had never been to school. So he went to kindergarten at 7,
Mm,
Maddie at 5, and they're in the same grade.
oh,
Academically,
sure.
that's where they were. So
Right.
um, they went through school together. They were always in the same grade level as they went through school, which they probably were not very thrilled about at some point. And here's poor Maddie, who's just a very sharp young woman, always has been. And her brother turned 16 before she did. So he got to drive before she did, even though she just
Right.
didn't, she endured a lot.
Right. Well, and that would be an interesting dynamic in its own. Like, even if Maddie hadn't been adopted, if she was your biological daughter and then you bring in a 7-year-old who doesn't speak English, everything is new, family life is new. So was it while you were homeschooling, or was it later on when you realized that Albert had Asperger's syndrome?
So it was in school. So he was in fifth grade, and bless her heart, Mrs. Stryker could tell that Albert was struggling with certain things. And she um, said in the fifth grade, several materials or the things that are learned go from concrete to more abstract.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to extrapolate things in order to them to make sense. And Albert was really struggling with that. And she is the one who said, I've seen this and I really think it would be worth getting him tested. So that's where that came from, where we actually had him tested through the school system and um, came back like, yep,
Yeah, yeah.
got Asperger's. And over the years, as we've learned more and more about that, it is like, oh, that is so my son. And we're blessed because there's can be a lot of more uh, what I would call maybe negative or detrimental um, behaviors that can be exhibited, and Albert hasn't had most of those, and so we feel very blessed that he's um, what his challenges have been are definitely his, but they have been certainly something that I think we've all been able to manage. When you see, so I know I'm backtracking a little bit, but so Albert was never in, we never expected that we were going to adopt an older child. We we actually were had our mindset on pursuing a Korean infant. So Maddie was, 3, and we knew that, well, we had learned through our processes that the Korean adoption system was very quick, very efficient. That's where international adoption started into the US.
Oh,
They
wow.
like they had a smooth process, and it was almost guaranteed that you could get the process was such that you could get between an 8 and a 10-month old. So I was still going to get my infant and still
Sure.
have a child, right? And Maddie would be the big sister. And so that's really what our intent was. And so we made an appointment with the agency that was just by us. It was different than where we had gotten Maddie through. But the woman who was a part of the Korea program was on the phone. And so they put us in a waiting room to wait. And they had these books of 3-ring notebooks that were full of pictures of children that were waiting for adoption. And they were, some of them had special needs, some of them for whatever reasons, but these were like immediately available on to be adopted now. And so they had 2 sets. Patrick was starting to pick one up, and Maddie had to use the bathroom. So I said, okay, I knew this was going to be a little time to sit. And so I grabbed a book and took it with us. And so we kind of went through that while she was in the bathroom. And she thought that this one picture, this would be a great brother. Really? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think he'd be a good brother. So I came out and I set it down and I showed it to Patrick. Maddie thinks this would be a good brother for her. And he said, you mean this boy? And he had picked out the exact same picture when he was going through his book, and it was a picture of Albert. So, so
Oh my
yes,
goodness.
and it was as emotional as it sounds. It was
I am choked up right now.
like there are just some things that have to be the hand of God. So that was one of them. And so we looked at each other, like literally, we just looked at each other and said, well, I guess we better tell the Korea lady we don't really need to talk to her. And so they immediately got us connected with the woman who was over the waiting children program and started to pursue that. And it was within a year. It was less than a year that we had Albert. So it was a very fast process because he was a waiting child.
How did I never know this story? Did you not tell
Oh,
me because you knew I would cry?
Probably, probably.
Oh my goodness. I am a wreck right now.
Oh, it it is it's a very special part of our story and of Albert's story, and for both Albert and Matt. Yeah, yeah. It was meant to be. So yeah, never got a Korean infant, and that's okay because I had Albert. So
Oh my
with
word.
with older children, they do. How can I say this? Sometimes we were told through the agency that because children have been waiting for a long time, they really need to get them placed. And Albert was just about ready to age out of being able to be in the orphanage. He just turned 7, and I think it's either 8 or 9. They age out and they can no longer stay with the other children because they're considered too old. So they have to have other arrangements, or many children just go to the street.
Oh my word.
And Thailand, Bangkok especially, is pretty well known for prostitution and male prostitution. So we just knew that they knew that that was a possibility of what was going to end up happening with Albert in his situation, or being faced with that dilemma. So they do what they can to get children placed. And one of the things they do is they make them look more severe in need so that they can. I don't, I'm probably not saying this right, but it's something about the government aid or the government assistance is higher than if they're. I'm
Okay. No, it kind of makes sense.
Anyway. He was listed as not doing well at all on his cognitive tests, and they told us to take it with a grain of salt. That they often skew those
Ah, okay.
for
Okay.
um, reimbursement purposes. That's probably a better way to say it. Anyway,
Okay.
and so we knew that he had scored very poorly on some of his assessments. And so Patrick had uh, taken care of some developmentally delayed adults during college. And so he was a psych major. I mean, he totally was comfortable with that. And he's like, if he has to eventually go into a home or something where we'll just deal with that. But there were just too many other things that had happened that pointed that this was the child that we were supposed to adopt. And
Yeah.
so we never really knew what to expect with Albert. And so we just took it as he grew up, as things went. That's why the whole realization that he really could learn English over the summer was such a big light bulb, because we never
Mm,
knew. It's like maybe he can't. We just didn't know what he was cognitively able to do
yeah.
versus. And then you never know. You never know, is this something that was orphanage behavior? Is this behavior because they never had a full-time parent or a family life? You never know if it's a language barrier. It's so every struggle or challenge that he had, a little bit like, oh, but he gets it now, right? And so he
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
learn and develop, and did very in homeschooling, did extremely well. We often tease that had way better cursive handwriting than Maddie. He had amazing handwriting. Anyway, so when he was in school, that this kind of hit at 5th grade, where it's like,
Okay.
okay, now I think we've hit a wall where no, he really isn't progressing like he should be, and is really struggling and is not moving. And so that's when the discovery of it being Asperger's was very reassuring. And it's kind of like, okay, I think we're at that place now. Like, we
Right.
know we've come to that diagnosis, which has explained so many things. Probably him as a child, before that time, it makes things make so much sense.
Yeah.
Um, and as an adult, there are things that it's like, I think this is because of my Asperger's. It's like, Albert, I think you're right.
I remember very distinctly there was a women's event at the church one night, and there was also some youth thing going on, or the youth were helping or something. Anyway, Albert was there and there was desserts. So that's why I went. So I went to this women's event and I got my dessert. and I sat down, and Albert was sitting in the room, which I'm not sure he was supposed to be, but he was in there. And so I sat down next to him and I started talking to him, and I asked him how he was doing, and he told me he was doing fine. And I asked him like how his week at school was, and he was like, he's carrying on this conversation with me, but just very short answers, which I thought was just Albert. But then he turns to me and he goes, "Who are you?" It's like he doesn't know who I am. Okay, so part of this is Asperger's. Part of this is just this strange woman sat down next to me and is trying to get in my business.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Oh gosh. We knew that Albert always struggled with prepositions. Like I'd say it's downstairs on the dryer. And he'd come back up and say, there's nothing there. And he would have looked everywhere except on the dryer, under it, beside it,
Oh my
around
goodness.
it. So he just, so prepositions were always a challenge. Albert's biggest challenge, and he knows it. I think he still is. Idiomatic expressions are the best example of it, but it's figurative language. And
Okay.
so we were driving down the road. This woman came buzzing around us, just like crazy. And Patrick said, "Whoa, bird, baby, bird," or something like that. And Albert was like, "Dad, you you should never burn a baby. That is awful." He had a notebook that was part of his therapy that he had, was learning idiomatic expressions. Most of us can learn them on our own. He had to have them explained to him,
Well, that's
and
fascinating.
and got quizzed on them. And so he doesn't happen very often. Now, every once in a while, though, we'll have to say that's just that's an expression, and it means this. Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, I didn't know what you were saying.
Oh, wow. Maddie, like you said, she's running her own business now.
Yes,
She's just a stinking rock star. She's like a local Fargo celebrity CEO.
she
It's
is.
incredible.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, I'm in the Ink magazine again." Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Again, literally, like, again, because she's fabulous.
yeah,
And I have very fond memories of
yeah.
singing with Maddie and with you. We were kind of the trio, as it
It
were.
very,
Um,
very much so. Yeah, that was extremely fun.
it
Fun
really
time.
was. It was a fun season. What is it like now having adopted young children? You missed the infancy stage, and now you have adult children. Would you say that they are still your kids? Are they more your friends now? What is the stage like?
That is a that's a really great question. Um, and I'm going to try to share this without crying because it is hard because not only are we parents of adult children, and I'm the mother of adults, which has its own interesting dynamics, but I'm a mother at a distance.
Ah,
So I have seen a difference. When we were more local, our kids were independent, living in their own spaces or whatever, coming back home for a weekend or a holiday or something, or would come visit us, and very fun hanging out, finding things you enjoy together. It's much more challenging when you are long distance.
hmm,
It really is. And so I personally am struggling with that, just in a number of areas of how to make that work, how to be available. I have two very different children, and I still call them my kids, my
yeah, yeah.
children. Obviously, our conversations aren't anything like they used to be, or um, you just have to learn that, I want you to be able to be open and free and tell me what you're thinking, whether or not I approve, and just getting over that sense of it has to be want because we're the parents, and
Hmm,
so trying to keep that door open so that those conversations can still happen, and you just have to have more conversations, I think. Um, this whole season where Albert's struggling with work, it's been kind of talking him off the ledge some days. Like, you have to keep faith and you have to stay strong. And then it's also the practical of, all right, are you really making your bills? And do we need to talk through your budget? And, we're here. We don't want you on the street,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And not to come to someone's rescue, but to still be their parent. It's um, so to help out when you can and in what ways you can. Um, Sometimes with Maddie, I feel like she's just got it together. And so I'm not always sure what she needs in a mother or a motherly figure, or if she just needs me to be her cheerleader
Yeah.
and her friend. And so we work try to work through that too, of just figuring out what's the best thing. I've tried this year specifically to talk with my kids at least once a week. We haven't succeeded, but that was sort of how I started the year, thinking, you know what, I'm just my mom was very religious about that she always checked in with each of her children. That was like her Saturday afternoon, and it was 20 minutes because I think that was the time frame when the
Oh,
rates
sure.
changed.
Sure.
And so you could tell, it's like, okay, well, good. It was good talking to you. And you'd look at it be like 19 minutes and 35 seconds. She was amazing. So, anyway, trying to stay that we are still part of each other's worlds. I think that's the hardest thing, is that to just still be part of each other's world, because you're not seeing each other. I mean, you lived under the same roof
Yeah.
for years, right?
Yeah.
It's like their business was my business, right? It's
Yeah.
like there was anything going on that you really didn't know about, and that really changes. And so, my husband especially is very good about trying to say, remember when, remember
Mm,
when you were 30? It's like your mother didn't know all your ins and outs and comings and goings. Um, and so in some ways it makes me really, really appreciate my mom and her flexibility of just letting us grow. And um, I'm still, it's another phase of motherhood that I don't feel I'm doing well. How moms are like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm, you know, yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
that's those same doubts and fears come up even at this age of parenting. So
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that so much because I think so often there are people in general, not even just mothers, but they reach a certain stage and maybe see how it's going for other people or see other people, being happy or carefree or appreciating this new phase, new stage, whatever it is, when really there's this internal struggle because you cherish the previous stage so much. And I so appreciate you sharing that, Annette. Thank you. And I mean, you made me, I'm surprised I didn't fall on the floor with how hard that Albert story made me cry. I cannot believe I didn't know that. I mean, I thought we were friends and all, but
see, there's always something new to learn, right?
oh my goodness, so sweet. And I adore your family. I adore you and Patrick. You know this. I'm so grateful for you hopping on here with me. And just as we wrap up, one final thing, if you could share some encouragement for maybe some parents or couples who are struggling with they want to have children but they can't, should they adopt, should they not? What would you offer them?
Here is what I say, and I have said this to others in the people in the past, is just pursue it. Just don't be scared of it. Just investigate. And there are so many more options for couples with infertility than there ever were for us. And I think it's worth the investment of your time and energy to see what all the possibilities are. So whether that's a non-traditional pregnancy or a surrogate pregnancy, or you decide that you really can open your heart to a child that you didn't create.
Hmm.
There's 101 different ways it can look, from starting in foster care to international to it really could be someone down the street who has a great niece that doesn't want to abort her baby and is just looking for a nice family, right? It's so
Yeah.
don't be afraid of it, because if you aren't comfortable with something, I wasn't comfortable with open adoption. So it's like, kind of check that off my list. That's not me. But there is something out there. And I do want to also say there is something in being a role of being a childless couple. I know I don't understand why people are put in different situations, but I know that there are families that is what God has called them to
Mm.
not have children, and to, for whatever reason. And um, so not be afraid to look at what your options are, and just and seek the Lord. I, you can lay your fleece out and say,
Love that.
um, and we have many times since then said, Lord, Lord, be blunt. We want you to open doors. We want you to shut windows, whatever the case is, that we want to follow and be in your will. So be blunt, because we're kind of thick-headed. So make it really obvious, right?
Yes.
You be obvious that this is your will, because we want to do that. We want to follow it. So, and he has done that for us. It's been very obvious when he's led.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Motherhood Experience podcast. To join our exclusive TME community, head on over to themotherhoodexperience.com/learn more. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment below, and we'll catch you next time.